Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Meet the Researcher. I'm excited to welcome Dr. Jacques Izard, a VHL researcher from the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. Dr. Izard is a member of the VHL Alliance Research Council and the VHL Alliance Patient Registry Task Force, out of which came the MyVHL Patient Natural History Study. Dr. Izard, welcome.
Thank you so much. Good day to all. We might be in different time zones. It's a pleasure to sharing what we are doing. It has been a long process, and we want to share with you where we are and where we are planning to go, both on all aspects of MyVHL data and some other aspects that I'll talk later about, and showing you some slides. But at the same time, there is the advantage of having the text, and you'll be able to get some of the information that I will mention quickly at your leisure. As Josh kindly introduced me, I'm Jacques Izard and I work at the University of Nebraska, but this work has been an effort of many people under the majestic direction of Eileen Sussman, who is the director of the clinical trial, but also the executive director of the HLA. And we cannot do this type of work without the VHL scientific community and without a doubt, without the patients. Basically, the first question I want to address is why are we doing a database and why are we doing analysis? Well, you're all familiar with the symptoms of the disease, or if not, the VHLA is there to help you to understand how the disease is symptomatic. But behind the traditional symptoms, you have to keep in mind that there is maybe systemic changes that are present in VHL patients we are not fully aware of. And I'm going to give you one example later on. And on a much more scientific point of view, the question is, what are the effects of hypoxia trigger states across body system outside of cancer formation? As you know, VHL is associated with hypoxia for the cancer formation. And we are not completely understanding at this point in time what are the effects on the body system. But before getting into the details of the body system, I want to introduce the clinical trial that is directed by Eileen Sussman. On the top, if you are familiar with clinical trial, this very long number can be punched in clinicaltrial.gov and you will get the full list of the details. I'm presenting only some of the details. As Josh mentioned, the name of the study is called MyVHL, or the MyVHL Patient Natural History Study. This has been created by MyVHL Task Force, the list of people involved from many different continents, and specialty is way too long to list it today in this slide deck. But it's an important group effort, and as well with the VHLA Resource Council that has been promoting this work from the beginning. One thing that is important, this study is recruiting. It's IRB approved, meaning they got an institutional review board approval. This study recruits all ages, gender, race, and from any location in the world. Consequently, please participate. It's very important. And I hope by the end of this talk, I'll motivate even more to participate. One of the questions with any surveys is what are the security components? It's pretty much at two levels. One is how the data is stored, the data from you, the participants. It's hosted by Nord, and this structure is extremely robust. And we have high confidence on the quality and resilience of the system. At the same time, the VHLA provide gatekeeping, meaning that not everybody has access to the data. Anyway, the data is always anonymous. Consequently, we don't provide the information to the researchers, such as name, address, and things like that. But also the VHLA take a lot of dedication to be sure that the researchers are motivated to use the data in a way that will enhance the community ability. Who to contact? Well, the man in charge today of this YouTube video live, Josh, and below is his phone number and the email address. But it might be much easier to connect directly online at databank.vhl.org. In other words, if you are an insomniac at 2 a.m., you can start to be part of this study without waking up, Josh. The overall goal of this clinical trial is to collect data to help researchers and clinicians identifying patterns across VHL population. As I mentioned, there is this question of systemic effect, and I'll show you a slide later on about what I mean by that. What type of details are collected? Many things. We talk about phenotypes of body system and organs, lifetime information, medication, many factors that are impacting the disease as we know it, many factors that we expect may modify the disease, and factors that are influencing the quality of life and your perception of quality of life. One of the fair questions is why so many details? Well, it's to really fill the gaps in knowledge that we have about the disease. As a rare disease, we cannot consult too many articles about what's the distribution of phenotypes in the population. And by phenotypes, I mean events that seems unrelated with the cancer, but might be related with the cancer, or the progression of hypoxia over a long term. We want to understand factors that may increase the risk of occurrence of tumors. We want to find ways to inhibit or slow the tumor growth, ways to lead to an effective intervention or cure. And in this clinical trial are two different components, an initial survey and after yearly updates that Josh will be able to explain why those updates are important. Pretty much what we are trying to do is a holistic approach. On the left side, the slide shows what we call systems. We heard about the lymphatic system, the vascular, the nervous systems, but also we have the muscle, the bones, and the organs. And as you are well aware, there is many organs. Some are affected in VHL, sorry. And you can see on the right side a list of organs affected by the disease, as well as the name of the tumors in scientific terms. As you can see, there is a certain level of complexity, and we want to be sure we take into account that complexity moving forward. And this falls under the category of trying to understand what is wellness, or the illness-wellness continuum. We have tendency to be stuck in a treatment paradigm, the sign and the symptoms, but we want to improve the quality of life, and we want to move toward a personalized management and context of wellness. And to do that, we need more information. There is a lot of subtleties that we are still in need to discover to facilitate the work of both researchers and clinicians and public health personnel. Well, right now, this is the data from the clinical trial. We had, as of recently, 629 participants. I want to mention that this database is not restricted to VHL. There is also the disease mentioned on the right side, BDH, HLRCC, and FH1, SDHB, and SDHD. The details are spelled out in this corner of the slide. For the study we are doing right now, we are not going to take into account those diseases. We're going to focus on VHL, but in the future, we'll be able to use the same template of study to understand all those diseases in more details. But when you focus on the VHL participants, you can see that we have 448 different individuals. We have data on 200 people without longitudinal data, meaning data over the years. And we have 248 people who we have data for the first year and following ones. Below are some of the surveys explained with the numbers of data of entries. Now you will notice that some entries are more than the numbers of participants. That is normal. This is a number of entries. Don't get confused. And you can see that we have survey about the kidneys. We have general questionnaires. We have questionnaires for the left and the right kidneys. That will allow us to compare if there is a symmetry bias, if there is digestive questions, some for the lower digestive tract, some from the oral cavity. We have diagnostic and genetic surveys, meaning how did you get diagnosed? What type of mutation do you have? We have neurology surveys concerning the brain, the neurology in general, as well as the spine. We have sensory surveys about the ears, eye, and skin. Endocrine surveys for the thyroid and parathyroids, as well as the adrenal glands. Surveys about the respiratory system for the lung, the heart, the reproductive system, and surveys about more general wellness and lifestyle, general health history, the mood, the medication and supplement intake, the nutrition and exercise, and some of the updates that need to occur time to time to take into account the evolution of knowledge. As you can see, it's extremely detailed, and this is the power of we can expect to understand all as a system and not just focusing on one disease or the other one. And we have to be extremely thankful for the participants who have been and are still providing data every year. We encourage you to join if you have not joined yet. And I want to talk about some data that we got a little while ago when we tried to see where the data sets were going. Time to time, you want to check where, what is the direction of the data. And this was done out of 129 participants and on the digestive tract only. And what was interesting, and that was unreported in the scientific literature, that there were symptoms in the mouth, but not in the digestive health. In fact, there was no trace in the scientific literature of any event in the oral cavity. However, I'm going to go through some of the details. This is a significant signal that we should pay attention moving forward. Out of 129 participants, we noticed that 24% of them had dry mouth, compared to about 10% of the general population. And this can be due to the disease, can be due to the medication, and it's important to manage because there is things like caries and gingival disease that can be associated with a lack of saliva and lack of wetness in the mouth. Another really important finding was that the amount of people with after was way higher than the general population, with 48% compared to 20%, sorry, which is really significant, and we'll need to pursue that avenue. Root canal and crowns are much higher in the VHL population than in the seniors, much higher than in the general population. And gum disease also is much higher than general population. But the good news is that 75% of this group went to the dentist within a year, which means that the dentist could see and observe and manage those issues. And if you are wondering how many people in the general population go to the dentist within a year, it's about 62%. And that number can be optimistic sometimes. Consequently, kudos to the VHL communities. That number needs to increase because it's important to manage oral health. It's linked to a lot of system in a body. Consequently, I do encourage you that you go see your dentist. And we hope to have much more complete data with the data set we just downloaded to better understand what's going on in the oral cavity, the digestive tract, and other systems. Our third question to ask is, what's our next steps? And pretty much is a reformulation what I've mentioned already, is try to understand the effect of VHL status on body system. And another way to say that is, does a person with a particular type of tumor have other concomitant issues? In other words, while we're focusing on the tumors, should we pay attention to something else happening in the body to improve wellness and the well-being in general of that individuals? Which means we need to figure out what element of wellness should be monitored. And the hope is to find ways that we can improve the quality of life. That seems a lofty goal, but it's because of all this work that has already provided by the participant, we hope to be able to really provide elements that are actionable. Might not be directly actionable by the patients, but at least awareness, an increased awareness of both the clinician and scientific community might provide new clues moving forward. I'm going to switch a little bit to tell you of another project in my lab, which really is concomitant of that aspect. It's an accompanying work linked to the fact that in the oral cavity and the digestive tract, there is a bunch of bacteria and other organisms that we call the microbiome that has been involved in processing food, digestive health, oral health. When you look at caries, crowns, which probably is also associated with root canal, gingivitis, periodontitis, all those are associated with a microbiome. And that's something that is a focus of my lab also. The microbiome has been involved in cancer risk, it's particular in colon cancer, has been associated with control of sugar levels, in diabetic, in mood. Pretty much, more we look into the microbiome, more we are discovering links with different systems in the body. And I'll mention that you can register this link for that particular study. And what we are interested in working with VHL patients is to try to understand this relationship between the oral cavity and the digestive tract in context of systemic health. It's an active study, it's a self-collection. we are working with different population in this self-collection system. It's all remote, anywhere in the US. We have people from 19 to 87-year-old that have done these kits perfectly. For the moment, we have 100% compliance, which is fantastic. It's an IRB approved protocol, meaning we have institutional review board from our university to do so. And it's compatible with the present pandemic. We need to be clear that safety is something important. Consequently, it's communicable disease. And this collection is compatible in that aspect. This is a US-based study. If you are in Israel, my laboratory work with Dr. Amit Tirash at Sheba Medical Center, who is also involved in the microbiome study, and we're collaborating on this project. Frequently, don't feel isolated if you are not in US. What are the expected outcomes from both studies is pretty much that we hope that patients and family will be able to monitor elements to maintain wellness. From the VHLA, the clinicians, the researcher is one of the goals are to improve the quality of life. And both combined, it will enable the Center of Excellence and VHL clinical care to move forwards and to advance clinical care forward. But one thing that I really want to emphasize is this is a partnership between patients, clinicians, scientists, the VHLA. Josh will be able to tell you about his experience. And this cannot be done without all those components being involved. And we're extremely grateful for participation. And if you have not yet participated, please enroll. Or just as a reminder, your next steps for the MyVHL, this is the contact information. For the microbiome study, this is the contact information. You can register at gounl.edu/mywellness. And you will see that after you enter your personal data, you'll be able to check a box. MyVHL will be able to contact you in that context. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for participating. Don't forget to register. And I really would like to give the opportunity to Josh to discuss his experience in connecting with the patients and working with the database.
Thank you. Yeah, we just to piggyback on what you said, how important participating in the study is, and it was great to see how the data is being used, and we could only imagine as we collect more and more data how much more important information and insight will come out of it, and the amazing breakthroughs that will come out of it. Now, due to some generous donations or generous benefactors of the VHL Alliance, we're excited to offer and show our appreciation by offering anybody who participates in MyVHL by filling out all the surveys as well as submitting a records release form. They're eligible for a $50 Amazon gift card, so that will be nice during tough times. That could maybe help a little bit, and also put your time towards an important cause. I also want to encourage everybody to go to vhl.org/myvhl, because at vhl.org/myvhl, you'll see a lot of other resources that might answer some questions you have. If you are more comfortable in Spanish, there's step-by-step instructions there on completing the or participating in Spanish, as well as in English. You have the records release form there, as well as a data flow chart that shows you exactly how the data is used. If anybody has any questions about MyVHL, there's a frequently asked questions section there, as well as some videos. If anybody has any questions for Dr. Izard, there's a couple of questions here. Dr. Izard, how are we going to see the products of your efforts?
Well, when we have the results of that particular analysis, the goal is to diffuse this widely, and there is multiple avenues. One is via VHLA communication. One is via scientific publications. And the hope is also to create media to support the clinical care centers to be able to diffuse this information. Sequentially, one of the goals of any of those projects involving the VHL community is to bring back the data back to the community in form that can be accessed by different group of people in a way that is easy.
Are different studies using each other's data?
The two studies I've shown, no, they don't use the data. And this is important for the security of the data, because we want to be sure that the data that is specific to a study is most focused on the need of the study. All that metadata, we call this in jargon of the field, which is all the little details we collect outside of the samples or out, within the data bank, need to be individualized to avoid breach of security.
How did you get interested in VHL research?
Well, I'm still working on the pancreatic cancer and the microbiome, and I connected with Dr. Sussman quite a few years ago, and the number of cases with pancreatic cancer is very rare in VHL, and we started to brainstorm of how we could help each other. And the data bank idea was already floating, and I was like, you know, you need to add your cavity and all this information about pancreatic cancer, the microbiome, and I was enrolled. And here I am a few years later.
What do you think the VHL research landscape is going to look like in 5 to 10 years?
Total mystery. There is a lot of progress in the genetic field. There is a lot of progress in the biochemistry of the disease. We hope with MyVHL database have a much more holistic view of the disease. And all those things are cross-pollinating, the work on the microbiome. Everything is cross-pollinating. Consequently, knowing exactly the field in 10 years is, I can tell you what I wish is improve the management of the disease if a cure is not been found yet, but also improve the wellness. And this is one of those goals that seems very diffuse, but it's also very reachable because a lot of progress has been done in management of cancers in the last 20 years, which was unthinkable.
What would you say to somebody today who is either recently diagnosed or the parent of somebody who is just diagnosed?
I would say the VHLA is an amazing association with amazing resource. The clinical centers are staffed with people extremely motivated to support the community. It's not about using, it's take this as part of your network of information and really work with them to understand the challenge at hand, benefit of their knowledge. There is a large community of VHL patients who is willing to share their experience. Work with them. It might be challenging up front. There is no doubt about that. But we have an outreach director who is just in front of me on the Zoom, which is fantastic. And we will be able to connect you.
Dr. Izard, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and for all the work you're doing to support the VHL community and so many more patients. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
To find out more about the Meet the Researcher series, as well as other events for the Surviving and Thriving Together series, please visit vhl.org/together. We look forward to seeing you and joining us for a future event. And until then, stay safe.